Welcome to the Double Broker Bounty Hunters Stop the Scam. Here are your hosts, the Double Broker Bounty Hunter, John Cantera, and Dispatch Caitlin Price. You know, one of these days, we're going to actually get somebody else to do the voice for that because introducing myself kind of sounds really odd, but that's okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Stop the Scam. Episode 17. We took last week off for the holiday, and I think we can safely call this week's edition the D-Day 80th Anniversary Edition. So my hat's off to the veterans who fought on the beaches of Normandy on D-Day 80 years ago on Friday. I can't believe it's been that long. So for most of us here, we're not talking about our grandfathers. We're talking about our great-grandfathers in some cases. And our great-grandmothers, actually. There were women who were involved in the battle. It's one of the proudest moments in our history, and something that we should really be grateful for as a democracy. So with that being said, my hat's off to World War II vets who are still with us today, and to those who have quietly slipped away. With that being said, Kate, how the heck are you doing this week?
I'm okay. Today was not too bad. I was able to take a nap. It was pretty cool.
You know, for a dispatcher to sit there and say you took a nap, it's normally because you took too much allergy medication or something, and you passed out at your keyboard. At least that is my experience. Of course, it could very well be due to my excessive use of Fireball lately. My jar's getting a little low, but that's neither here nor there. But with that being said, let's go ahead and bring in our guest for today. We have with us Shane McKinney of Freight Medic. So, Shane, welcome to the show. Glad to have you out here.
What's up, guys? And just had a grandfather that stormed the beaches of Normandy. He's since passed, but he got to take a trip back there before he passed away. And it was he said it was one of the most touching vacations he had ever received. His daughter bought it for him. And some of the stuff them people went through them, during that time, that was tough. And my hat's off to every one of them. So.
My grandfather was a tail gunner in a B-17 over Europe during the war. And I know my wife has a great uncle who earned a Silver Star in Normandy. So, I mean, it's, yeah, absolutely.
Definitely different time. Definitely different time for people back then. So,
yeah, that's the dang truth. Well, welcome to the show. Good to have you back, as always. We got plenty to chat about, but I know one of the things that we're chomping at the bit on is an update about our favorite scamming carrier that we have come across, domestic carrier, who's been hustling the hell out of, allegedly scamming, thank you very much, who's been allegedly hustling the hell out of, allegedly, a lot of owner-operators, allegedly. So let's go ahead and get our update on Mabe. So let's go. Let's kick off with that. Kate?
So, first of all, a complaint has been filed, and that is, still in the works. But they did recently start up and file for a new MC. So they do have a new company that they are attempting to recruit people under. I can only imagine that it's for the same reasons that they were recruiting people for their original company, Mabe. But this one, they very strategically organized it. So it's based out of Wyoming, not Fort Worth, Texas. And the contact information is different for the new company. By the way, the new company is called Raptor Transport Raptor, and it from at face value, just looking at it, you wouldn't guess that the two are related, but it is public information that Sean Mabe, the same person that runs Mabe Transport, is in fact the legal organizer of Raptor Transport. So
Let's go ahead
just
and
because
now
it
I'll
looks
pull that
different.
up on the screen just so people can see it. There we go. There's the proof, folks. Available out there in public. All you got to do is look. Where do we get this information, Kate?
That's on Open Corporates. So it's a public database of the corporate world. So anybody can get on there and view that information. Like down there at the bottom, it literally says directors / officers, and it says Sean Mabe. So
Yeah, good old
that's
Sean. He tried to sneak a fast one. How did he get his hands on this? Is this like an authority he bought or something?
no, it's a brand new one. It's
Well,
a
he
brand
might
new
have
one.
problems with it because it looks like it's got a virtual address.
Oh
Unless
yeah,
he
I'm sure
does.
it does.
if he's running as a carrier, that's against FMCSA regulation.
But it's not something that FMCSA really actively hunts for, also.
No, but your risk rating platforms will.
That is correct. Oh, you know, I went and I've looked at Mabe in their different iterations. I think this is the 4th MC they've been running under in the last year. And every single time, the risk level was medium to high for a variety of reasons. And that I would not doubt that at all with this particular situation. First off, it's only showing 2 months. I mean, that's first and foremost.
2 months from when it was filed, I'm sure. So
yeah, 2 months from when it was filed. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe the date that it actually went active is 5/16. So that's, a couple.
What was the
weeks
MC
ago.
on that?
Oh hell!
I'm not staring at that screen at the second.
Hang on, I'll try to pull it up.
So I want to give everybody the benefit of looking at the stuff that we look at. Kate and I think Sean does, or I think Shane, I think you use Carrier OK as well, right?
Yep. Carrier OK,
Yeah.
Safer.
It's 1635231.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a brand new one.
Super brand new. Okay, here. Let's pull that down. I want to go ahead and pull up what Carrier OK has on that. And for our viewers who may not be exposed to a lot of these carrier screening sites, Carrier OK will actually work with carriers who will work with carriers entirely. They're not very expensive, and the information is actually pretty good, I think. You can see all sorts of data from this. So guys at Carrier OK, I'm hoping the sponsorship check is in the mail, but I'm doing this anyway, even if it's not. It gives you all the basic. It gives you all the information, basic information about the people we're talking about, the carrier. You can also look at brokers on this. It assigns a risk level based on available information. As you can see, there's a lot of risk factors with this particular one. Less than 12 months, address shared with 77 other DOTs.
So definitely
good
a
luck getting
virtual
a
address.
load with that. Address is a PO box. Business address and area code do not match. Admittedly, I got that on mine as well. I got a Savannah phone number, Savannah, Georgia phone number, and I'm living in Pensacola, Florida. Okay, let's see. Inspected power units do not align with the number reported. Well, yeah, because there's no inspections yet. It's not exactly pretty. You can get all the insurance information on here. You can get their safety information on here. They haven't had any inspections, so there's nothing to report. But that's basically the information you can get off of this, and you can drill into anyone else who has that address and look at the different MCs and whatnot, which are active. They'll tell you if that's active, pending, or has been shut down for whatever reason. You can get all that information off of this. So carrier okay, I am expecting that check anytime now, or just text me and I'll send you my Cash App. In the meantime, Raptor, though, is somebody you want to avoid. So if you're looking to find a carrier to lease onto, please avoid Raptor like the plague. All right.
Hang on.
Anything else you got on that?
Yes. And I just want to point out that, again, we're not saying that they're doing anything illegal. We're not saying that they are committing any kind of fraud or anything like that. We're just putting the bug in people's ear that, hey, we've heard a lot of bad things about these people. And by a lot of bad things, I mean 20 to 35 or 40 reports. So it's definitely a big thing. It's definitely something that this stuff puts people out of business. They work for people like this, and then they never get paid and they go out of business. So whether it's a result of never being paid, or whether in some circumstances the reason these people aren't paid is because of the way the contract is written. So read the contract, ask a bunch of questions, ask other people questions, bring the contract to us and say, hey, I'm looking to lease on with XYZ company. Can you look at this contract and tell me if this is fair or whatever? We'll look over it and we'll tell you, yeah, that seems pretty fair, or no way, that sounds horrible. And a lot of these people get put in this situation because they've never been in trucking before, or they're just trying to get into trucking and they aren't familiar with certain things that they should be looking for. So, and then take that even further, a lot of them aren't looking to see if any of these companies are legitimate, because in their mind, they think, oh, I get into trucking, that's like a government controlled industry or whatever, right? And to a degree, I mean, yes, but there is fraud rampant in it. So it's not necessarily that people aren't doing their due diligence, but they aren't aware that this kind of stuff, it's not a thought that this stuff can happen in a government related type of industry. So I don't know.
The only people regulated by the government in this industry are the carriers.
Yeah, well, not enough. As we see.
We don't hear you, John.
Thank you very much. The whole reason why there's a problem is because of the Motor Carrier Act of 1980. And some of the very overzealous carrier associations that are out there point this out, and this is one instance where I think they're absolutely right. The Motor Carrier Act of 1980 does specifically state that anybody who wants to become a carrier who meets all the qualifications is entitled to an authority. So that basically eliminates barriers to entry. So the problem at FMCSA is, even though they have local guidance that tries to prevent carriers from signing up with a virtual phone number or a virtual address, it's not something that's well policed. They don't have enough people to monitor that. They don't have the right software in place to monitor it. So basically, if you apply for an authority and you check all the blocks, you get the authority. And until you do something wrong and somebody reports you, you don't wind up on anybody's radar. So that is why fraud is so insanely rampant in this industry, but you got to understand what you're looking for to help avoid it. And this is a great segue to go into something new that we are doing here at the Double Broker Bounty Hunters. We have a webinar that we are offering for the first time this week. It's Friday at 11 a.m. Central Time, Shane. Central Time. Okay. So you just go to my website, vigilanttransport.com, click on the education link, and you will see the registration link up there. We are offering seats for this first course at half price, which is $49.99. And afterwards, future offerings are going to be at $99.99 per seat. So get in while you get the chance and help me evaluate this course and get fine-tune it to what it needs to be. But the issue that we have figured out, and I think both Kate and Shane will agree, education, the lack thereof. There is no real education that exists out there for new carriers, new brokers, etc., who are coming into this business. All everyone sees is, oh, it's a chance for me to make some money. Oh, it's a chance for, in some cases, get rich quick, because there are a lot of people who try to sell this industry as a get rich quick type of place. And for very few, it might be, but you damn sure better know what the hell you're doing. That education is not readily available out there. And I don't care how many people, and I know it's ironic for everyone sitting here watching this podcast, but you're not going to get that education from a podcast. You're not going to get that education from a video that's just sitting up on the internet. You need to get with quality people who understand this business inside and out and learn from them. Okay. So somebody who has a bunch of free videos, that is probably not the one you want to go to. You also want to make sure that if you do pay for a video to learn something off of it, that you're getting what you pay for. Okay. So by all means, check for testimonials, check for any references, follow up on those references before you spend pay now, before you hit that link, pay now. Okay. Even for mine. I'm happy to give you references. Okay. Check me out, please. You got 17 episodes on my channel here. You can check out there. I got standalone videos out there you can check out. And this webinar goes far more in depth than my standalone videos do. But it is something that is going to help a new carrier, a new broker, a dispatching service navigate the minefield of fraud that exists in this system today. And we will be updating it on a regular basis because there's new frauds all the time. Hell, we came across 2 new scams. What was it, 2 weeks ago? New double broker scams, the fake double broker and what I'm calling the pump fake double broker. I mean, it's crazy. The ingenuity of these guys is unfathomable. But if you're interested, please check out my website, send a registration, and I will send you information about it and the link for payment, and then we'll roll from there. In the meantime, what else do we have going on? I have got a couple of cases that I am working on this week because I'll be perfectly honest, guys. As a dispatcher, this is the slowest I have been in a very, very long time.
It's crazy.
Are you slow too?
Extremely.
Okay. So maybe it's not just me, but
no, it's across the board. I mean, it's across the board. Normally, I've got in a week's time, I can usually have 2 or 3 referrals coming to me. I haven't had referrals in months. I mean, it's just, and it's. I mean, I'm out there. I'm sure. I've got people, affiliates that refer stuff to me, and it's just, you know what it is. Right now, nobody's going for tractor trailers. Somebody out there on TikTok is filling people's heads that they can get these cargo vans and sprinter vans running. So these guys are going out and buying these damn authorities.
Yeah,
I'm a glutton for they're being promised they can make $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 a week.
I'm a glutton for punishment in this whole dispatch thing. I mean, I know I deal with box trucks and hot shots, mostly box trucks. I only got one hot shot right now, but I drove them, so I know them very well. I had my own box truck company. I know the ins and outs of it. I will not touch a sprinter van.
No,
I just won't do it. I won't do it.
It's basically a messenger service or a courier service. That's all you got.
Yeah, well, when I get one of them who call me, I sit there and say, have you tried calling Napa Auto Parts? Maybe you can do like local deliveries for them, or something like that. Don't rely on the spot market to keep your van running. Find yourself a customer and do local delivery.
I mean, listen, my hat's off to you because to me, with a box truck, running the spot market's difficult enough.
It is.
I mean, if I was going to start with a box truck, first thing I'd be doing is trying to get, some dedicated, local to me. But I mean, it just, trying to run the spot market for box trucks is difficult. I mean, that's why I said my hat's off to you because I know,
When I had my own carrier, I did start off doing final mile delivery. I had a contract with then XPO,
right,
and I had a contract with Estes. The only thing I didn't like about XPO was it required me to have double the insurance levels, and it required me to have a helper in the truck.
Right.
I didn't need it, but I sure as hell had to pay for it, which sucked. Estes I enjoyed, but the downside about Estes was I had to have my own warehouse space because they would send me the truck. Instead of me going and loading at their facility every day, they brought the freight to me. I did the routing. I organized the deliveries. I did it all, but they paid better. So it made it worth it. I actually kind of enjoyed it a little bit. In fact, it's, I think, the only job that I've ever had that my wife actually worked with me. You know how fun it was watching my wife run a forklift? That gave me so much joy. It really did. I took a video of her once and sent it to her family. It was funny. Anyway, but she was instrumental in helping to keep things going, and I really enjoyed that. But I also got greedy. This was during COVID, and rates were starting to go up, and I wanted to take advantage of that. So I started putting some trucks over the road, and I drove over the road a little bit myself to understand how it all works, and we did that for a while. Got in over my head, ended up going under, but at the same token, I learned so much. So anytime I get a box truck guy calling me, wanting to talk about dispatch, first thing I want to know, how old's your authority?
Yep.
Are you driving? If you're not driving, do you know who your driver is? I mean, are we talking about family? Are we talking about somebody you hired? Did you do a full workup on them? Did you do the driver qualification on them? What's your cost per mile? All this is in the initial conversation. My initial conversation is usually an hour long with them, just so they know what they're getting into. So, folks, if your conversation with a dispatcher is 2 seconds, hey, I'll dispatch for you 4%, send me your paperwork, and that's the end of the conversation, you're in a bad spot. Get away. It should be a very long conversation because there are rules on how dispatch services are supposed to work. You should be signing a contract. You should be signing a power of attorney. You should be going over a lot of details, but you need to know the regulations to understand what you're getting yourself into. So if you're talking to somebody who's got an accent like mine, like I'm in the Northeast U.S., or Kate, and I can hear some of the Texas twang in her voice,
I'm not even from here.
And I know you just picked it up over the years. You're going to have a long conversation, but if I'm hearing some of these foreign guys out there, it's a very short conversation. All they want to do is get your information, because once they have your information, some of them may actually be good, but then they may turn around and start double brokering with using your information, and you'll be the one that gets in trouble for it. Because let's face it, carriers, you hire us dispatchers to be your representative. Therefore, what we do reflects on you. So make sure you have a good reflection of yourself when you hire.
Perfect example of what you're referring to. I have a client that we got a notification from Armstrong going back probably about a year ago, asking us, because it was a one truck operation, asking us if we had done this number of loads for them. And I kept emailing them back. For some reason, they would never respond. We tried to have the factoring company get in touch with them. Anyway, this went on for about 3 months. All of a sudden, we get a notification from the factoring company that Triumph had contacted them. Well, somebody had gotten our carrier's MC number, started creating fraudulent rate confirmations, on Armstrong's MC number, and were doing quick pays through Triumph and collecting the money to the tune of about $36,000. Come to find out, allegedly, it was somebody internally in Triumph, but they would never tell us.
Really?
They would never tell us who it was. I've never been able. Armstrong had no idea about it because I've been trying to get Armstrong to clear this carrier. This way we know that there's no issues. And Armstrong was completely in the dark about it. So, I mean, but that's how easy something like this can happen, you know?
You know, I don't want to sit there and say that it's easy to cheat the system, but it's easy to cheat the system.
Oh,
it's very easy.
It's easier to cheat the system than it is to do it the right way. And that's the sad part.
Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. And these scammers, particularly the Eastern European types, figured this out about 2-3 years ago. And that's where you really start seeing the rise of groups like Rigs and Crossroads Services who started gaming that system just under the surface, you know, so that they could stay undetected. And that's really how this cancer embedded itself and started to spread. And once you had one Eastern European group doing it, then this other Eastern European group's like, hey, there's some money to be made here. Let's go make some money. And then all of a sudden, they're coming in from all over the place. Most of these guys are international, most of them. But there are some domestic ones out there that you do have to watch for. You know, like the alleged Mabe and Raptor could be something that you might want to watch out for. You know,
look at the one we were discussing earlier.
That's Mabe and Raptor.
No, A&D freight brokerage.
Oh, A&D, yes.
The ones that are charging carriers to book them loads, and they're a broker. You know, they're charging carrier deposits to book a load with them. I mean, it's, you know, they're wanting paid twice because they're getting paid but from the shipper. So, but you have
carrier. Carrier, you pay me for the privilege of me offering you freight.
But what kills me is people are out there. They think that they're going to get something from it, and that's what kills me about this whole industry. Okay, because you got people like yourself, myself. I mean, I've got over 30 years in the trucking industry, and all I want to do is try and help people. And like you said before, and I've said it for years, lack of education in this industry has been the downfall of it, and it's allowed people to come in and prey on the carriers, the service providers have learned ways to prey on the carriers. And every day it changes as to which way to see a broker charging a carrier to provide a load to, I'm sorry, but I was at a loss for words. I had to reread because somebody sent it to me in an email asking me, hey, what do you think about this? And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I says, run far, fast, the other way, get away from them, you know? I'm like, now, and listen, in all fairness, as a dispatch company, if you had the opportunity to go and book, this particular individual, the carrier was a box truck carrier. So now, as a dispatch company, I have contacted another carrier company, and I've put box trucks and, you know, a brokerage in touch with one another, and it was dedicated freight. As a dispatcher, yes, I took a payment on that because I orchestrated it for them. I helped them write the contracts. I got everything. But after that's done, see ya, you're gone. There you go. They were guaranteed the contract before I ever got paid. Once they got, you know, I think it was 2 weeks. I let them run the contract for 2 weeks before they had to pay me. And, you know, everything was good. But as a broker, the broker is being paid by the shipper. Carriers don't need to be paying a broker. I'm sorry. I mean, I shake my head more and more every day, man. I really do. And then you got these guys, the carriers, they'll come out and we're trying to help them. And I don't charge for my consulting, you know, but these people want to run to somebody that's offering them 2% dispatching. Oh, we'll do it for 2%. Okay. What do? They give, oh, you charge too much. Okay, well, then when they get stuck out in Colorado with no load for 3 days, then they're calling me, hey, can you get me out?
Sure, 10%.
Yeah, well, and, and I'm not
And
that
you're
way. I
deadheading
mean, I've
300
bailed
miles.
many of them out, but I mean, it's just, and then what kills me is the fools will go and do it again.
Oh, yeah. You look at the dispatch services that act that way, and I've seen them. I've seen their work. Okay, do they get loads quickly? Absolutely, they do. Are they quality? Absolutely not.
No.
You're looking at $1 a mile for a box truck or less. You're looking at $1.25 a mile for a dry van or less. You're looking at 75 cents a mile or less for a Sprinter. They are not market rates. They are below market. All they're doing is looking at volume. That's all they care about, because the more volume they issue, the more volume they charge for, the more money they're going to get from you. They don't care that they're going to leave you west of the Rockies and you're going to be stuck for 3 weeks because there's a snowstorm coming. They don't care.
They don't even know what the hell the Rockies are.
Well, that's true too. I had a guy, I kid you not, this is my favorite double broker I've busted. He had me picking up in Boston. Okay. And he wanted me to go from Boston, pick up by 1 PM in Boston, and deliver in Chicago by 7 p.m. same day.
Not even with a team, brother.
Not with a Formula One racer. I said, okay, I'll do it. And I got him to pay me. Well, I got him to pay me, what was it, $1.25 a mile, because it was a partial. It was one small crate. It weighed 50 pounds. It was like 2 foot by 2 foot cube. Okay. So I went ahead and I booked it. I knew damn well what the hell was going on behind the scenes. I had another partial already lined up, and we were good to go. We were going to make our run to Chicago, I think, for $3 a mile on a box truck out of Boston. Woohoo!
Especially out of Boston.
Yeah. So as soon as we pick up that crate, of course, I'm looking at the BOL. I figure out who the real broker is. I call them up, and they're like, "You're freaking shitting me." I'm like, "No, your load got double brokered." Okay. So they're like, "Well, how much are you getting paid for it?" I was like, you first. You tell me how much you paid for it.
That's what kills me. That's what kills me. And then they want to come back and I had, who was it? Roadway. Was it Roadway?
Oh, yeah. They
I think it was Roadway before they closed. Roadway, I caught some double brokering going on, and I called their office, and the guy agreed on the rate for us. And he goes, well, what are you getting paid? And I says, nah, we're not going to go there. I says, just, will you agree to, all I want is what you agreed to pay them. And he was all good with it. The next day when he went to write the rate con, he sent it back and he gave it for less than what we booked it for. And I said, oh, no. And he's like, well, I've lost a lot of time in this. And I says, listen, time? I says, you would have lost your freight. I says, you had no idea. I says, your company allowed this to happen, and you're going to try and shortchange me in the carrier? No way. Oh, he didn't like it. I had to go to corporate. I went over his head, and they ended up paying us what we agreed on. Oh, he blackballed us.
I had the same issue with Sherway.
I think it was either Roadway or R&L. I can't remember, but what had happened was our carrier wasn't an old enough MC. It was he was 1.5 years, and they wanted 3 years. And so they muscle you. Yeah, they pushed him through, but they had already pushed him through before they tried to muscle me. And listen, we got your freight. I mean, it's it's amazing the amount of nonsense that goes on, man. This industry is just it's a shame, I'm
not saying most brokers act like that. And I don't think Shane's saying that either. In most
cases,
no. A broker, when you go through it, and I'm saying this for the benefit of the audience. When a broker sits there and talks to you about a double brokered load, you've caught it, you reported it, and you're trying to get a real rate confirmation from the real broker, you can typically expect the same amount that the broker was going to pay the scammer. Okay, yes. That's what you should expect. If you're not getting that, there's a problem there, and you really need to get a hold of somebody like us to help navigate that issue. Now, I would say that was the standard a year ago when all they were doing was skimming off the top. Now that the scammers are stealing the full freight bill, it becomes a different ballgame. As long as you catch it before you deliver, you can get whatever was promised to the scammer. Okay.
Now,
doesn't matter if your rate confirmation is higher than the scammers or lower than the scammers. It's going to be how much the broker was paying the scammer. I don't know how many times I've had to help carriers navigate freight guards because they had a load they thought paid $6,000 going across country, and the real rate was $4,000. And they get to a mile from delivery, call the real broker and say, I'm parking it right here and I'm not moving another inch until your rate confirmation says $6,000. Folks, it's called holding cargo hostage.
Yep.
You deserve that freight guard. Now, a lot of people do this because of UCC. I got to double check this. I want to say it's 7370 is the carrier's lien clause under the UCC. So the carrier's lien basically says when you have a BOL, you have custody of the cargo, and you have a right to be paid for it. So if for some reason you are not paid for it, and there are very specific reasons you can do this, you can then take the cargo and then you can execute the lien by selling the cargo and other stuff. That does not mean that you can sell cargo anytime you want. There are very specific situations, and please do not rely on somebody like me on the internet for doing this. Hire an attorney before you try to execute a carrier's lien. Okay, you want to make sure you do it right, because if you don't, you will be held liable for the damages as a result. But that carrier's lien clause is what allows carriers to feel comfortable with holding cargo hostage, but they don't understand the law, and that's where the real problem comes in. And yes, you will draw a freight guard doing that every single time, guys. Trust me, it's the easiest $500 I make.
What people don't understand about that whole the lien, the carrier lien, is with factoring companies and the 30-day to pay platforms, the structure that's designed with the brokers and the shippers, you're never going to be in that situation unless it's just one where they've left the freight on your truck. You don't have the ability to use that carrier lien before you've delivered the freight, because they're not issuing payment before you deliver. So again, I mean, I've seen it so many times especially on Facebook. Oh, take that freight right back to where you picked it up. Let me tell you something. You do that, you're not going to be paid for the freight for the mileage that you went back. The facility 9 times out of 10 will refuse to unload it. They're going to send you right back to the delivery location. So now you've paid round trip fuel that you're not going to be compensated for. And more than likely, they're going to ding you on the original rate and you're going to lose your shirt on it. So, don't listen to these guys that got an axe to grind. Oh, I'll hold the freight hostage. It's nonsense. I mean, there are certain, and listen, I mean, with all of the regulations, again, there's no enforcement of them. The ICC's gone. There's nobody to enforce the regulations. The only regulations that are being enforced are safety regulations. Something that's going to be a safety issue. Your payments aren't being regulated. What the brokers do is very seldom is being regulated. It's starting to become a little bit more looked at now. But I mean, you have to protect yourself. And the best way to do that, as John said before, is educate yourselves. I've got training programs. I do lives. We all do it. And not saying that me and John are better than anybody else, but make sure that, as he said before, make sure you vet who you're listening to. Even with me, somebody wants to take my courses or something. Listen, I'll give you a list, not only carriers that I work with now, carriers I've worked with in the past, but other industry professionals. Vet us all. Vet the ones that I'm referring, that I'm saying are referring me. And that's what you have to do. I mean, because there's too many people. I could be sitting here bullshitting you one end up the other, and you ain't going to know the difference. So the best way to do it is to vet. I mean, do your due diligence. That's all you have. this is your business we're talking about. This ain't something to take a chance on some guy that can't speak English and charging you 2%. You know, I mean, you really have to do your this is you. I mean, you're investing. Most of these carriers are investing, whether it's their life savings, their retirement, you know, whatever it is, and they're coming out and they're running on a shoestring budget. They can't afford to have somebody that's going to sign them up with a predatory service provider, whether it be the wrong broker who's, you know, a dispatcher that doesn't know how to vet the brokers and set you out on a run. You know, you've done a $2,000 run, you make your delivery, you've lost $2,000 because you'll never get paid for it. You know, I mean, it's very, very crucial to make sure you're working with the right people, especially in the markets the way it is today, running the spot market. You can't afford to take a loss like that. And if you're taking a loss from your insurance, you're taking a loss from your factoring, you're taking a loss from your dispatcher because he's booking you on double brokered loads, you're out of business, and you haven't admitted it yet.
Yeah, it all starts to me with your dispatcher. I was watching a couple of videos from a couple of people. I don't know if you're familiar with Axel Live.
Yes.
He was going on in a recent show of his that it's important to know whether or not you can trust the people that you're talking to. And, you know, to your point, it's all about the references. We all know, because we are dispatchers, that there is a place for dispatchers in this industry. I know there are a lot of people who disagree with that. Carriers, if you can do this on your own, be our guest. We're not looking for you. We're looking for the people who need help. Okay. And there's a legitimate service that we offer at a legitimate and fair rate. You know, these one truck companies who have a driver that's stuck behind the wheel all day long, they don't have the time to hunt for their own loads. That's fine. That's the case when you want to start contacting us. We're here to help. But vet us. Like Shane, I have got a list a mile long of current clients, past clients. For my fraud prevention services, I've got a list a mile long of people I've helped get freight cards removed for. Help people get paid on scammed loads when they weren't getting paid at all. I've got tons of lists like this. All you do is you have to ask. Yep. You do have to ask for it, okay? Because once you have somebody that you trust operating as a dispatcher, if they're good, if they're worth anything, you better believe they're vetting everyone they talk to as well. My lists of brokers that I have personally vetted are miles long. But even though I've worked with somebody 6 months ago, I'm going to go through and I'm going to screen them again through my initial screening process just to make sure everything's still on the up and up. Exactly. I don't know how many times I have actually gone and rechecked a broker, and then all of a sudden, oh, wait a minute, they're not factorable anymore. They've got a problem. Their credit score fell.
Look at Wolf Direct. Wolf Direct a year ago. In January, they were rated A. July, they were rated C. By September, they weren't rated at all. They were done. And what they did, they ran out one surety bond, but they did it in a way, and this was before the FMCSA started implementing the new 30-day issue. You would run out of surety bond, you could go apply for another one, and that new surety bond company wouldn't have any idea of what you did for probably 2 or 3 weeks. And by that time, you've run 2 or 3 weeks worth of freight for them, and you've run up another surety bond with non-payment to your carriers. And Wolf Direct did it. I mean, and they were a pretty well-established company for a number of years.
If I remember, Wolf Direct, when they finally shut down, they had, 1.7 million in payables that were filed against the bond?
Actually, the first bond was totally filed out. The second bond, I don't know, because I was quick enough to get in there. I got the driver his full pay on the load. I couldn't believe it.
Well, that is a miracle.
Yes.
Because in most cases, when you have a broker go under and you end up filing on the bond, there's a period of time that the bond company is going to wait for all claims to come in, usually 30 days.
Yep.
And then once that 30-day period is up, they're going to say, okay, we've got 1.7 million in claims, and we've got a bond valued at $75,000. Okay, so you're lucky to get pennies on the dollar in that situation. So that isn't always the best option. If you're stuck in a situation like that, sometimes it's a good idea to get a hold of a commercial collections company because they can help you go after the consignor or consignee, which the law allows you to do under 49 CFR 377.
And the shipper.
That's consignor.
Right.
So you go for the consignor.
I'm sorry, I just heard you say consignee. You'll say,
sorry,
you go after the shipper too. So
you go after them because they ultimately have the responsibility under federal law to make sure that the load is paid for. You have to prove a lot of things.
They've paid the broker, even if they've paid the
broker, they've already paid. Very famous case about this, which is considered settled law. That would be. I'm thinking of it right now. I can see it in my mind's eye here. It's not River Oak. It's Oak Ridge, Oak River. Oh, God, man, I can't remember the name of the case anymore. I used to know this like the back of my hand.
It was from the Midwest, weren't they?
Yes, it was against Sears Roebuck.
Yes.
Okay, 2012. So what ended up happening was that Sears Roebuck had a huge project. They hired a freight broker for. This freight broker hired this one carrier that ran the entire project. Sears Roebuck paid the freight broker. I got cat interference here. Sears Roebuck paid the freight broker $224,000 to run this project. The freight broker goes bankrupt before they paid the carrier. So the carrier's sitting there, does $250,000 worth of work, and is left with their butt in the breeze. So they went and they sued Sears Roebuck, and the court found that in accordance with 49 CFR 377, as well as the Interstate Commerce Act, they found for the carrier and that Sears Roebuck had to pay the carrier the full $224,000 plus court expenses, even though they've already paid the freight broker. And that's where the term "the carrier must always be paid" originated. So in any of those situations, if you legitimately haul the load, you hold the actual pen and ink document BOL, you are entitled under federal law to be paid for that load. So don't let anybody try to tell you you're not going to get paid. 9 times out of 10, a good collections agency can resolve that for you. In the meantime, I'll go ahead and plug. I just got my collection agency license from the state of Florida. Feel free to give me a shout. I'm happy to help you in any way I can on that. Being transportation, and since I've been in transportation for 25 years, I'm in a good place to be able to help a carrier who's going through that situation. And it is a minefield. I do recommend you hire a professional to deal with these situations because you can step into a lot more problems by not being prepared when you're having that conversation with the appropriate people. Not only that, geez, man, you can put yourself in so much hot water. You end up getting a freight guard and all this other stuff on top of it. Oh, it's a mess.
And then you got to pay you to remove that too.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, in fact, before we went live today, I got a freight guard removed. So, yay.
I had a hot shot contact me that had made a delivery from California to Ohio. Load paid $2,500. When he gets to Ohio, he gets text message communication from the receiver. It's like, all right, I have a crew at the house. Go in and get them. Have the crew unload the freight. So the carrier loaned him his pallet jack. They dropped 2 pallets off the back of the trailer. Well, the broker refused to pay the carrier. Sent it in as a claim to the insurance. Insurance valued the claim at $635. And the broker refused to pay the remaining balance. He says, no, I say the claim's worth $2,800. I want $300 and you did the load for free. So they contacted me. We went back and forth. I got what I thought was most of the information from them. And within a day, I sent 2 letters and they had everything but the $635 paid. And then I started looking into it. And as I got further, I didn't know that there was documentation where the insurance company The only reason they wouldn't pay it was because it was more than the carrier's deductible. But they used from the regulations from FMCSA, it's not delivered until it's off of your trailer. So you're still responsible for it, which to me, I don't agree with, because he had strict instructions to let them unload it. But at that point, the carrier was happy. I said, look, we can continue to fight this, but I can't guarantee you're going to get any more. I said, but we can take it further, but that's going to be up to you. I said, I'll help you get everything together. I said, it's more than likely going to come to you having to get an attorney or somebody involved with collections. I says, but it's basically their word against yours. So, we ended up getting 3/4 of, we got everything except for what the insurance valued the claim at. But, it was just, again, it's a lot of these guys, and, I said hot shot, yes, hot shot, but a lot of these hot shot guys too, they don't know the industry. They just knew that they could buy a truck and a trailer and they can get out there and run freight. And,
one of the things that I used to do back when I was running warehouses, you mentioned, the receiver asked them to go ahead and unload it. Waivers.
Yeah.
Waivers of liability. I used to carry blank waivers of liability in my truck when I drove. I kept waivers of liability on the dock when I ran warehouses. Because if something was out of the norm in the slightest, we wrote it down. The receiver signed for it. I signed for it as the driver, and so that we agreed as to what the conditions were. Okay. My liability ends as soon as it crosses the threshold of my cargo door. Okay, signed. That's good. He accepted responsibility. Here it is. I'm not responsible. Here's a signature right here. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. I'll see you in court.
It's all about, it's covering your backside. I mean,
absolutely.
As a carrier, everybody's trying to get into your pocket. Everybody wants that money that they're paying you. They don't want to pay you. So as a carrier, it's in your best interest to do everything to cover your backside. I mean, if not, they're going to get you. I mean, I that's one thing that I try and preach when, to my clients, to anybody that I'm consulting with. Listen, you got a question about something, call me. I'm not an attorney. I don't charge by the hour. I mean, you got something that's questionable to you, send it to me. I'll look at it. I'll tell you, run from it, or, yeah, it's good. It's just so much misinformation out there, and too many people out there that are just making all these comments of grandeur and throwing these ideas out there, and these people are falling for it. And it just, I mean, you were saying before about, a good dispatcher, and, 3 years ago, if you would have 3-4 years ago, you would have called me and said, hey, why should I use you as a dispatcher? And I'd say, listen, we have better relationships with the brokers. We're moving volumes of freight through all of our clients. So we use that as a negotiating tool for you. In the current market, you throw all that out the window. The current market, most of these brokers, they don't give a damn about you. They don't care what dispatching company, because their necks are on the line from their admins. So the only difference, you said it before, if you don't have time for a driver to be looking for loads, as a dispatch company, that's all we do all day long. So we're able to, all right, listen, all right, that's a better look, that's a good looking load, good looking lane, boom, we're going to get it. We have that availability. If you're a truck driver trying to book your own loads, you're limited on the amount of time that you're able to look at that load board and the amount of loads that you're able to pick from. So you got to take, you got to look at it for how much downtime you have, and are you able to keep your wheels rolling? That's the difference in using a dispatcher nowadays. I mean, especially if you're running spot freight.
Well, if you're working with a dispatcher, you are running spot freight.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Well, that's what I'm saying. A dispatcher's in your best interest if you are running spot freight. I mean,
oh, absolutely, without a doubt. Just from the fact that we stare at the board all day long, we know what the boards look like.
Well, we stare at the boards. We're getting, we get a lot of the private boards from the other, from the bigger brokers. So we've got stuff that's coming out before it's being put out onto the general boards. So.
Kate, you got it. Your stuff situated?
Yeah, it was a family. I don't really want to say exactly what was going on, but
Don't
a
worry about
family
it. Yeah,
emergency type of situation. So it's all right.
you know, it's a fun life being a dispatcher. It really is. You know, you never know who's calling, but every call is an emergency. Every last one of them. You know,
Yeah.
whether it's family in your case or even a driver, you know, calling us, it's an emergency, and we try to treat it as such. If your dispatcher doesn't do that, you need a new dispatcher.
Speaking of that, hey
Mhm.
John, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Did you start with your dispatch agreement? Did you start out asking for emergency contact information for your carriers?
Actually, no, I didn't.
Let me tell you
I
something.
don't have that. I don't have that in my current contract.
Let me tell you
that's
something.
a damn good idea.
You get one of your carriers get hurt. It took me almost 2 weeks to get a hold of his family. I had to find them through social media. And then they thought I was a scammer. Like, he's laying in the hospital paralyzed. And that was something that I am. And it's funny because I put it on there, and very seldom will anybody put any information on it. I'm like, look, I'm doing that for you, you know, but it's just something that I thought I'd throw in there, you know.
No, that's a really good point. I've never thought of that. Kate, do you have that in any of your agreements?
I don't, but yeah, that's definitely a good idea. Now I do have I have two carriers whose wives are in our like a group text chat. They're like, "Hey, I just want to put my wife in here because she makes sure that I don't miss text messages and, you know, whatever stuff." So two of them I do have contact information for. My biggest guy that leases people on, I don't have an emergency contact for him. Honestly, I don't even know if he would have one. I don't know who it would be, but that is a good idea.
Is he a driver?
Yeah, he's a driver. He owns the
that
company
would
and
be
he's
a
a
good
driver.
idea. Yeah.
It was something that it was an oversight on my part, and you know, it's something that, God forbid, you hope you never have to use. But the fact that I didn't have it, it was just like, you know, this, because it was very odd the way it happened. The guy had been driving for years, and he had the single poles on the back swing doors, and he got to a stop real quick, slung them open, and it was mail cartons stacked, and they had pinwheeled the pallets so that they could get them double stacked, and he couldn't get a load bar or a strap on them because they couldn't get the door shut with it. So when he got to the location, he whipped both doors open, and he, you know, if there's anything I can tell any carrier out there, you open a rear door, keep the door between you and the freight. It'll knock you out of the way, and it won't fall on top of you. And this guy took a corner of a pallet to the throat, broke his spine behind his neck, and paralyzed him. But it was just, we ended up calling him, and the EMTs actually picked his phone up and answered it. That's how we found out that he had gotten hurt. Wow. And we couldn't speak to him. You know, hospital wouldn't tell us nothing. So none of his family knew where he was. We didn't know any of his family. So it was really, I mean, it's something to be mindful of, because these guys, they do look for us for support and everything. And it's,
I should know better, but when I was a carrier, I did have that. And I had a guy who disappeared in Michigan one night. It was I remember this very vividly. It was a Friday night. He was originally from Fayetteville, North Carolina, and
my neck of the woods.
He was up in North Michigan. He just made a delivery. His pickup was on Friday evening, 30 miles away. He stopped to get fuel. That was the last time I heard from him. That was the last time I pinged his ELD. And then an hour later, I get a call from the broker saying, "Hey, where's the guy?" Well, I think there might have been a line or something at the fuel station. 2 hours later, broker calls again. "Where is he?" Like, what do you mean, where is he? So I then get on the ELD and nothing. The last known location was the gas station, but it wasn't active anymore. And I'm like, what the hell? Tried calling him. Couldn't get a hold of him. I tried calling his family. Family didn't answer. I called law enforcement, 3 counties around that area to watch the highway, you know, for anything going on. No response. The guy was missing for 28 hours. 28 hours. He calls me and says, yeah, I'm in Fayetteville. Truck's here. Keys are next to the inside of the tire. You can't have me arrested for stealing the truck because I'm calling you and telling you where it is. And I just was like, really? He's like, yep. Fuck off. Goodbye.
Didn't steal it, but you abandoned it.
Yeah, sheriff's deputies knocked on his door the next morning and took him into custody. I dropped the charges later that afternoon, but I wanted to prove to him, yes, I can. And I did have him arraigned on grand theft auto because he did steal the truck. He did not have authorization to move the truck from Michigan to North Carolina. So drivers, please don't pull that stunt. I don't care how bad your owner is. I don't care what your emergency is. Talk to them. They'll work with you. They want their asset back.
Well, not only that, but you got the issues with DAC reports and everything too, that it can go against the driver. I mean, and for drivers that aren't familiar with that, I mean, that can foul you up with getting jobs in many, many places.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Kate, you got any horror stories on yours?
No, one guy I had that he ended up missing for a little bit, I guess, but I think it was only, I don't know, probably like 5-6 hours. And then we finally got back a hold of him. I think his wife actually texted me and was like, hey, have you heard from him? I'm like, actually, no, I haven't. So that was a little weird. And then I had a guy that went to jail mid-load, and that was really ridiculous. That wasn't fun.
Yeah, it was. I know which case you're talking about on that one.
I had a lady call me one time. Her box truck driver was he was out in Idaho or something, and I think she was either from Florida or Ohio. I can't remember. And she needed to get her box truck, brought home. And the guy just took his fishing pole out and went fishing at the pond while he was waiting for his load. And he didn't have a fishing license. Well, he had a warrant from some other state that he didn't know about. They locked him up quicker than anything. And her truck was stuck out there. She didn't know what to do. And, and again, it was after, the COVID height of, the rates weren't no good. Everybody's running on. She's like, I'm going to lose my business. I'm like, ma'am, I can't fly out to, I think it was Oklahoma or somewhere. And I says, it just wouldn't, it wouldn't be cost effective for you to fly me out there to drive it back for you, So
I had a very similar situation once. I hired a driver. He probably worked for me for maybe a couple of months, and he was divorced, and he had a 3-year-old daughter, and he gets his daughter on the weekend. So we always made sure that every other weekend he was home so he could spend time with his daughter. Well, one time he got home late on Friday, late in the afternoon, but it was after the agreed pickup time. So apparently he didn't get to spend time with his daughter. And his wife, trying to make threats and make him feel bad and stuff, the next week called him up and told him, I'm going to take custody from you. The man lost his shit. He was in Memphis, a half hour away from making a delivery. I think he was going to Olive Branch, and he just completely lost it. He completely broke down, and he checked himself into a mental hospital in Memphis, and then called me and told me, John, sorry about that. I know this is a pain in the ass. I know I'm causing you all sorts of problems, but here's what's happening. And he explained the whole thing to me, and he was very rational about it. At least he communicated with me. So I didn't hate him for it. Was I going to pay him for the load? No, because I had to jump on a plane in Georgia, fly out to freaking Memphis, get my truck, drive the 30 minutes to make the damn delivery, and then I had to work my way back to Georgia with the truck to find another driver. I mean, and I did this. This was during COVID, so I had to fly during COVID with a mask on the entire time and all. It was on my birthday, as I recall. Oh man, I was miserable. Oh, but when you own a trucking business, this is some of the shit that you go through, and your dispatcher is going to help you deal with these things if you have a good one.
Well, that's it, carriers. I mean, no, most of us, well, I don't want to say most of us. There are those of us out there that know what you're going through, and and know how to help you. I mean, there's not too much you can throw at us that we're not going to be able to assist you with. I mean, we are your support for anything outside of that truck. I mean, I've found locations for drivers to get their DOT physicals, if they needed it. They're driving down, oh, my physical is going to run out. Well, I need to get back home. Well, how about I just find you a spot? I mean, you're 800 miles away from home. Your DOT physical runs out tomorrow. So unless you want to tell your boss that you're going to deadhead 800 miles, let's get it figured out.
Yeah. Yeah. We are your smarter way of getting things done. So I know this show has been a huge ad pro dispatcher. Okay. But there are definitely bad ones out there, guys. Don't get us wrong. There are definitely bad ones. In fact, I would venture to say there are more bad ones than there are good ones. But do your best to find a good one if you are in need of our services.
A lot of it's not even that they're bad. They're just ignorant. They literally don't know what they're doing. So... they might be good people, but they don't know what they're doing.
And listen, I mean, that goes
Thank you, Kate. You're right.
And even though I have a training program, I mean, you got some of these that you'll see on social media. How do I get into dispatching? 6 weeks later, they got their dispatching company up. Now they're teaching courses. And it's like, well, what are you teaching? You have no experience. You just asked me how to get into dispatching. You had no experience to get in the trucking industry, but now you're going to teach a course? I mean, it's just they're so easy for people just to go out there and blow smoke up your backside and call it sunshine. And if you don't know, then they're getting over on you,
And you can tell by talking to somebody. If you have been in the trucking industry, then you can tell by talking to somebody if they're worth a shit or not.
Oh, yeah.
If you talk to a dispatcher, you can ask them certain questions or whatever. You can even tell, even if you don't ask them questions. I have conversations with people, and if somebody calls me and they want to work with me, and I had a guy call me last week that lives in his setup is great. 40-foot CDL hot shots are my thing. Cool. MC is like a few years old. Everything's great. And he's based in Phoenix, and he can only run those Western 11 states. And I was like, okay, yes. Well, that might be my deal breaker, but I'm like, you know what? I'm willing to try it. I can't promise you that it'll be great, but I'm willing to try it. And he's like, cool, that's all I want. And he's super happy. So, I mean, you just have those conversations with people, ask them certain questions. You can tell, for Christ's sake. You can tell by talking to a dispatcher or anybody, broker, whoever it is, how long they've been doing this or how much they really know just by a simple conversation.
Well, carriers too, though. Carriers, they got to be realistic in what a real dispatcher is not going to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to tell you what's realistic. And, and that's, I mean, I've seen it scare many off, and that's fine. But I have one last topic I wanted to mention because you were talking about hot shots. Have you guys seen where I've seen a couple people making comments about this recently where they've been going through DOT stops and they had their trailers derated for non-CDL. And because the trailer is actually rated at a higher weight, they forced them to get a CDL driver to get it out of the inspection.
I have seen that. However, I haven't seen the regulation that shows that to be a thing.
Yeah, me either. That's what I was wondering about. I mean, I haven't seen anything change in any regulations where this should have, become a change and something for people to consider.
I mean, these inspection reports do they have a regulation cited there? There should be. If they're taking them out of service for because they need a CDL, that there needs to be a regulation listed that identifies that on the inspection certificate.
Like I said, I've only seen comments about, I've seen comments from carriers mentioning that they've had issues with it. I haven't seen any of the actual documentation, but it has been more than one. It's been probably 2 or 3 in the last 2 or 3 weeks that I've seen that it said that they've run into that situation at scale houses getting roadside inspections.
I'm gonna have to look into that. I've only got one hot shot.
How do they know? How do they know that that trailer's been derated? How do they know that that's
Well,
not
no,
what?
see, that's the thing. They don't know that it's been derated. They're going by what's on the spec plate. So if that spec plate states that that trailer is a 26,000-pound trailer, or then okay, that's what they're going by. Now the guy doesn't have a CDL. All right,
Well, when they get the trailer derated, they change it. They're supposed. Well, okay, I guess that makes sense. But I actually had somebody that got pulled over, and I think he was actually ticketed because he didn't have he had his derated sticker, but for whatever reason, the guy's not the brightest crayon on the box and never put it on the trailer. So
oh God,
he had the sticker and never put it on there. So the lady said, well then I'm gonna go by what the plate says. But if the sticker had been on there, they don't give a shit what anything else says. They care about that sticker.
Right.
Is what I've been told. That's what that cop even told him. And that was just a regular state cop. That wasn't DOT or anything. That was a state cop that was like, yeah, I don't really give a shit that you have that sticker right there.
And again, I don't know. I'm just going by the comments I've seen. So it could have been something in that same similar situation where they didn't have the derated label on there.
That would make sense because that's how you get so many. When people, as a broker, when you look up a carrier safety thing and you see all those driving a commercial motor vehicle without a CDL, that's what that is. That's exactly what that is. They get pulled over, their trailer's not derated, so it shows that it's 40,000-pound GVWR or whatever the fuck, and they don't have a CDL because it's not derated, but they're actually running under 26,000 pounds.
Right. I'd seen a lot of that, so I figured I'd mention it.
I'm glad you guys mentioned that. I've had 2 hotshot guys in the last 3 years that I've ran with, and one's still with me. But he has a CDL. So that has never been even a thought to enter my brain. So I'm glad you mentioned that because I'll remember that for the next time I get a hotshot.
We have one guy that does not have his trailer derated, but he runs non-CDL, but he does have his CDL. We just didn't put him there. I mean, there's a multitude of reasons why people do that, but in our situation, he didn't want to, something about being enrolled in the Drug and Alcohol Consortium, whatever.
I thought if you were running 10,000 plus GVW, you still had to be enrolled in a consortium.
No. Only if you're.
I think it's Class A.
Yeah. If you're running a CDL setup, then you have to be enrolled in the Drug and Alcohol Consortium. Otherwise, it's just the
if you're running a CDL A setup, I believe it is.
Okay, because all my box truck guys, I put them in a consortium anyway. Back when I had my own carrier, I did it anyway. I did pretty much everything that was required under a CDL, even though none of my guys had CDLs, and we were running sub 26K box trucks. So I've seen too many horror stories where people would sit there and say, yeah, it's required. No, it's not required. Yeah, it's required. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to mess with it. I'm just going to do it and be done with it.
CYA.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If it's your own company, I mean, if it was my company, I would probably do it too. If I were just hiring, Joe Blow off the street, then I'd probably put him in the Drug and Alcohol Consortium anyway too. But these are, for most people, it's leased on drivers and different ball game. It's their equipment.
I could tell you some stories about that, boy. Whew. Some owner operators and some of the stories they come up with, and they go MIA, and then they start holding loads for hostage because they want the boss to pay them money before they get the load delivered. And boy, some of the stories.
We can go down that rabbit hole another time.
Oh yeah.
Let's go ahead and wrap this up for the day. We kind of run a little bit long here. Shane, you got any final thoughts?
No, I think tonight was a good show. I think covered a lot of ground, and anytime you got a space, you need somebody to fill in, give me a holler, man. I'll be happy to come on. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. You're welcome pretty much anytime, dude. Seriously. Kate, you got anything?
Nope. Be mindful of the fraud. Be mindful of carrier fraud specifically, because that's what we've been focused on for the last several weeks. Just
think that everybody's looking to get over on you. As a carrier, that's what you got to do.
I mean, let's face it. We're all capitalists. We're all trying to earn a living doing what we do. But there are plenty out there who are taking advantage of it.
Yes,
absolutely.
I have to point this out. I got a call earlier from a broker who I booked a load with on Friday, and he said, he's like, it was a small load. It paid like $700. It paid $760 for 384 miles. And when I talked to the broker initially, he was like, yeah, we're paying $2 a mile, $760, pretty simple, whatever. I'm like, okay. So anyways, we went with it. He calls me this morning and he's like, Caitlin, what do you have down as the mileage for that lane? And I said, 384. And he's like, yeah, we made a mistake somewhere, I guess. We just went off what the customer told us the mileage was. So they thought it was 380. So he's sending me a revised rate con with an added $8 because he wanted to make sure that it was actually $2 a mile. And I was like, you know what? I don't even care how insignificant that seems. Nobody else would do that. So thank you.
That's awesome. You better keep him
positive review in DAT right away.
Yes.
It was Interstar Transportation.
Interstar. I've got to remember that. I'll watch for them.
Yeah. Text that one to me because I'll look for their stuff. So.
Oh yeah. You got to like brokers that do that kind of stuff. For me, again, we are launching the fraud prevention webinar this week. Friday is our first offering at 11 a.m. Central. If you would like to register for a discounted seat for that, go to vigilanttransport.com, click on the education link, and you will see the registration buttons towards the top of the screen. Please register, and I will make contact with you once you do. Other than that, folks, remember we are here every Monday, unless it's a holiday, at 5 p.m. Central Time, Shane.
Hey, I still got my steaks cooked and ate.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Spotify, RSS, you name it. We're out there. Just check us out anytime. We're here to help. If you ever have any questions, just reach out to Kate or myself from our email, jcantera@vigilanttransport.com or kprice.rockdovefs.com. Shane, thank you so much for joining us this week. If you ever have any questions for Shane, hit him up at Shane at freight-medic.com. He's happy to help as well. We're here for you, folks. This may have been a pro dispatcher episode, but we are always anti-fraud. Check us out next week. We'll be in touch. Have a good weekend, folks.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
Thanks.